My wife and I, both 33 years old, have been married for 11 years. We reside in an area that was once rural but is rapidly transforming into a suburban community adjacent to a medium-sized metropolitan area. Our high school graduating class consisted of just over 200 students, but now the number of graduates has reached close to 500. Growing up, I had the experience of living on a farm. At the age of 6, my mother unexpectedly did not return home one day, leaving my father to raise me single-handedly. As a result, I assumed the responsibilities of farm work and developed a strong work ethic from an early age. Over time, my father decided to cease farming and instead leased his fields to other farmers while pursuing a job in a factory. He wisely invested the income from these leases into purchasing additional land, particularly during the challenging period of the Great Recession. Consequently, he acquired numerous properties, establishing a solid foundation for our family. One of the properties my father acquired includes a house that he entrusted to me to renovate and establish a home for my family. Although it is part of a trust along with his other properties, my wife and I are responsible for covering all the expenses associated with it. My wife comes from a lower middle-class background, but her family has always treated me with kindness and respect. They relocated to our area during our junior high years. Throughout high school, my wife and I dated, and we tied the knot once I secured a steady job. Prior to that, I did whatever it took to earn money, whether it was clearing out a barn or painting houses. Do you understand what I mean? We now have an 8-year-old son, and my wife happily fulfills the role of a stay-at-home mom. Now, I am a route driver for a large snack company. I'm close to buying my route from the company. I have more than doubled the size by going into every mom and pop store, grocery and gas station, and selling as much product as I can. I have a large area because the surrounding area is still rural. My plan is to finish buying the route. Then I can buy another truck. The plan was to have the wife run the second truck. There is projected supercenter grocery and merchandise to be built in the next year in my area. If I own the route, it will be mine. If not, the company can split my route. So I need to finish buying the route. We tied the knot a few years after graduating from high school and ever since then. So our marriage has encountered some rough patches. I believe one of the main reasons for these difficulties is my tendency to work long hours, leaving me with limited time and energy for our relationship. I do make an effort to be present, but I must admit that I fall short at times. Despite the challenges we face, we've also shared countless moments of joy together, and our love for our son is unwavering. He embodies the best of both of us. He embodies the essence of a typical boy, and his current passion lies in sports. He recently played basketball during the winter season, followed by baseball in the spring, and now he's enthusiastically involved in flag football. So we hit a low spot relationship-wise. In the spring, my wife and I talked about it and each made promises to do better. For late April through mid-June, our sex life went off the charts. We could not get enough of each other. To be honest, I may have been getting too much because I was dog-tired, but still ran my route. My son was playing ball. I never missed a game, but I did not hit all his practices. As with most youth sports, the dads take an active role in the coaching or helping out. I just could not give that commitment. My wife stepped up and helped out when needed. The baseball coach, Ted, is an ex of a very good friend from high school, Mary. She was the smartest kid in school. She went on to college where they met. They married and soon had a son who is also 8. Their marriage hit the skids. So Mary moved back home 3 years ago to have help watching the boy by her parents. Ted moved here 2 years ago to be close to their son, and they think to win Mary back. As we reach the middle to end of June, we find ourselves slipping back into the monotonous routine of our lives. However, in July, we make a promise to each other to reignite our commitment. To facilitate this, we decide to take a vacation together. Despite our efforts, our relationship remains somewhat rocky and uncertain. The turning point arrives in mid-August, when our passion is rekindled in the bedroom. Yet, disappointingly, this spark fades away after only a few weeks. As September unfolds, our once vibrant intimacy dwindles into a state of stagnation, leaving me desperate to communicate with my wife about our struggles. However, whenever I bring up the topic, she insists that nothing is amiss, leaving me confused and frustrated. Just around this time, our son enthusiastically takes up flag football and finds immense joy in it. He dedicates himself to practicing a couple of days a week and eagerly awaits the Saturday games. One day, I decide to drop by his practice, and to my surprise, I see my wife and Ted armed with a clipboard, diligently coaching the children through various drills. A few other fathers are also lending a hand in supporting the team. I was completely unaware of my wife's involvement as a coach until we returned home. I mentioned it, only to be corrected by my son, who explained, "She's not just helping, she's a coach." It turns out that when we signed our son up for flag football, she volunteered to be an assistant coach, a fact that had escaped my attention. Personally, I find it wonderful and commendable. However, her commitment to coaching appears to consume a significant amount of her time. I notice that she is frequently engaged in texting, occasionally taking calls. Whenever I happen to be present, it seems that most of her communication revolves around texting. After school, they regularly go to Ted's place, where he diligently trains both his own son and ours. Under Ted's guidance, they are learning valuable skills and techniques, which is evident in their exceptional performance as the top 2 players on the team. So their first game comes. I work in the morning and make it to the field for the game. The wife and Ted are side by side giving directions. Someone sets a chair down next to me. It's Mary. We watch the game. At about halftime, she asks if the wife and I are doing okay. I tell her sure. I look over at her, and she is staring at me. So I ask what. She said her son came home after being at Ted's. It had been raining, so there was no workout. They spent the afternoon playing video games. Her son went to the kitchen to get more juice and saw Ted and the wife kissing. He ran back to the game and told Mary that night at home what he saw. Every day, I have the routine of waking up at 4 a.m. to make the 45-minute drive to the warehouse to retrieve my truck. However, on a particular Monday morning, fueled by suspicion, I decided to wake up even earlier at 3:30 to check my wife's phone. As to my dismay, I discovered that she had changed the password. Undeterred, I persisted and attempted various combinations until I managed to unlock it. My wife tends to use multiple passwords across different platforms, so it didn't take me long to figure it out. What I found on her phone left me utterly devastated. Text messages upon text messages, some even containing explicit images. Of feeling a mix of anger, betrayal, and profound sadness. I took screenshots of some of the evidence as proof of what I had discovered. Typically, I allocate one day to spend in town, and occasionally I return home for lunch if I happen to take one. Particularly on days when there is a lot of activity happening in terms of intimacy. On this particular day, I arrived home expecting to find her there, but to my surprise, she was not. I attempted to reach her through a phone call, but she did not answer. Curiosity led me to drive by Ted's place, and I noticed her car parked there. Continuing with my routine, I completed my tasks. When I finally had the chance to speak with her, she mentioned she was at the store and expressed regret for not being present when I arrived. I reassured her that I was merely attempting to surprise her, emphasizing that it was not a significant matter. To the following week on the same day, I once again informed her that I would be returning home for lunch. I parked my large truck a short distance away from Ted's place. I couldn't fathom how she didn't notice my unmistakable vehicle. That's as fate would have it. She hurriedly emerged from Ted's house and drove away just as I was about to enter. I hurriedly emerged from Ted's and hastily drove back home. I followed at a leisurely pace, and upon arrival, I found her in the process of making me a sandwich. We engaged in a pleasant conversation thereafter. On Saturday, following the game, I accompanied my son back home, helped him change, and then we proceeded to my dad's place. They had plans to go fishing in the pond, with the option for him to swim if he wished. After dropping off my son, I headed back home. Unfortunately, as expected, my wife was not there. Feeling a sense of concern, I decided to drive over to Ted's place. But to my dismay, her car was parked there. I dialed her number and called her. She answered with a touch of annoyance in her voice, and that's when I asked her why she was at Ted's. The line fell silent for a moment, and then she responded with the explanation of talking about the game. I urged her to get dressed and come home. Instead, she directed offensive language towards me and abruptly ended the call. But when she eventually arrived home, I was already seated at the table. As soon as she walked through the door, she unleashed a string of curses at me, expressing her frustration at being accused of something. Emily requested that she take a seat, but she adamantly refused, growing more agitated by the minute. At sensing the need to assert myself, I firmly told her to stop talking and sit down, allowing me to express my thoughts. Just with a folder in my possession, she inquired about its contents. I urged her once again to sit down so that I could show her. Opening the folder, I began revealing screenshots of her text messages. She erupted in anger, berating me for invading her privacy by snooping through her phone. Undeterred, I presented the more incriminating texts as evidence. She attempted to offer explanations, but her words faltered as I produced the compromising nude images. At that moment, she fell silent. I informed her that our relationship was over. Give her a deadline until the following Sunday to move out, as I planned to consult with an attorney on Monday to handle the necessary legal matters. We could address the details later. She broke down into sobs, expressing deep remorse. I posed a question to her, asking, "What did you expect would happen when I discovered the truth?" She remained speechless, unable to provide an answer. When I returned home in the evening, I noticed that all her belongings were gone. A note left behind stated that she would drop off our son after his practice. We previously agreed that she would pick him up after school, with the option for her to either stay until I arrived home or for me to pick him up from her parents' place. Thank you for listening to this story to the end, and if you like it, please support us with a like as well as subscribe to our channel. Write in the comments what you think about this story